This is Bonnie Balda from the Pontiac Public Library, and it's time for Grandma Reads a Story. And we have two fun stories looking forward to today. And the first one is A Map into the World by Kalia Yang, and it's about a young Hmong girl. So let's get reading. First time we saw the swing and the slide in the garden of the greenhouse with the big windows, my mother sat down in a chair in the backyard and said she did not want to get up. Tai and I looked at the garden, and she pointed out tomatoes, green beans, and a watermelon round as my mother's belly. Tai knelt down to touch the dirt. I asked my mother if I could try the swing, and she said, "Yes, Anna." The greenhouse became our house. I helped Tai hang the special story cloth about how the Hmong got to America on the empty wall by the big window of the living room. Later, my mother and father brought me across the street. The old man's name was Bob, and the old woman's name was Ruth. Up close, I could see that they were even older than Tai. Tai and I were in the garden picking tomatoes and beans and checking on the watermelon when my parents brought my baby brothers home from the hospital. I ran to the gate. The boys were smaller than my baby dolls, but cuter than any doll with their fuzzy heads and red lips and round brown eyes. Some days, the babies cried very loud. I covered my ears with my hands, and I asked my father to take me outside. Bob and Ruth sat on their special bench. We waved back and forth. The leaves of the two ginkgo trees by Bob and Ruth's house turned yellow like apricots. One day, a brisk wind blew, and the fan-shaped leaves came flying down. They covered the grass and the streets and the dark mouth of the drain. Bob raked while Ruth sat and watched. I brought in a leaf for the babies to touch, but my mother said, "They're still too little, Panna." The snow made the world quiet around us. We stopped seeing Bob and Ruth outside. The snowflakes fell on their driveway and glittered in the gray light. I made a ball of snow for my brothers, but it melted before they woke up from their nap. At night, I looked out our big window at Bob and Ruth's house to see their light shining across the dark street. Sometimes I saw a shape of a person looking back at me. I waved, but the shadow person never waved back. On a cold morning, cars came to our block, filling the street. Car doors slammed as men and women in thick jackets walked quickly to Bob and Ruth's house. My father said, "Ruth has died. Her family is coming to say goodbye." I felt sad for Ruth. My brothers just played with the toys above them. The cars kept coming and going the next day and the next. I swayed back and forth on my toes by the window. I tried to lift one of my brothers so the people could see how cute he was, but he cried, and my mother said, "You're still too little to carry him, Panab." After the Hmong New Year, my baby brother learned how to sit on their own, and we all sat looking out the window together. I clapped for them when a plane flew across the sky. They laughed every single time. The house across the street looked empty. The ginkgo trees reached for the sky with their thin fingers. When the snow started melting, I could not wait to return to the swing and the slide and the garden. My baby brothers crawled all over the floor, underneath the table and the chairs. They were like puppies, their little tongues licking everything. I found the first worm of spring on the sidewalk and named her Annette. I wanted to bring her inside so my brothers could watch her wriggle, but my mother said, I don't think so, Bana. The world became green again, and finally we all went outside. Tai-Tai's planted green onions. I picked flowers from the lilac bushes for my brothers to smell. They opened their mouths to try to eat them. My mother said, don't let them eat the flowers. Now, Dob. We took the babies outside again. The next day after lunch, Bob's garage door opened and we all watched as he pushed out his special bench. He sat down alone. I pulled on my mother's sleeve until she looked at me. I whispered an idea in her ear. What do you think her idea is? What's she going to do? My mother and I crossed the street and walked over to Bob. Oh, she's being friendly. I let the sidewalk chalk bucket swing in my hands. What is she doing with sidewalk chalk? I asked my mother to ask Bob if I could draw on his driveway. I said, if he doesn't like it, the rain will come and wash it away. Bob nodded and said, go ahead. So what do you think? Do you think he likes it? My mother and Bob talked in low voices. I could hear Bob saying, Ruth, she was with me for 60 years. I started my picture with a teardrop. See the teardrop shapes? Can you see them? And then I made it splatter like sunshine. I drew lines leading away from the splattered sun in many directions. Where's she going with these directions? I drew a line that led to the garden. There I put a yellow ginkgo leaf. I drew a line that led to the grass. There I made the sparkling snow. She's drawing lines. I drew a line to the sidewalk. There I put a smiling worm named Annette. I drew an arrow to our house there, and I added lilac flowers. Why would she draw an arrow to their house and flowers? And then I drew a line, the biggest line of all, toward the street. And there I drew the whole world. When I was done, I walked quietly to my mother and to Bob. They stopped talking, and Bob shook my hand. What did you draw for me? He asked. I said in a whisper, a map into the world, just in case you need it. Bob said, I think I might. And look what he did. He's holding her and hugging her. Yeah, this is the back cover. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that first story. And what happened was, you tell me what happened at the beginning? As she moved in, and there was a wing swing, and she was playing outside, and did she have some siblings? Yeah, she had two baby brothers. They were little itty bitty babies. And there's two neighbors, Ruth and Bob, that lived across the street, sat on their bench. And so time goes by, that goes through the seasons. And then Ruth passes and Bob's still there. And she wanted to do something. She asked her mother, she whispered in her mother's ear. What was her idea? And she was carrying what? A bucket of what? Chalk. She was carrying a bucket of chalk. What did she want to do with that chalk? What's fun to do with sidewalk chalk? Yes, color. And she started out in the beginning, and she drew lines through the different seasons, and then drew lines of where he should go. And she ended up an arrow right to whose house? Their house, yes. And then it went from their house. Then there's a big line, and at the end, big line, she drew what? The whole world. So, and what was her explanation to Bob of what she had drawn for him? She drew a map of into the world, how to get into the world. And how did he feel when she said he might need it someday? And what did he say? He might. And he gave her a big what? Oh, he gave her a wonderful hug. I think she made him feel better. So art and doing something for somebody, drawing pictures from mama, or sometimes for a neighbor can make you really happy. So, and it was hard for them. They were from, they're Hmong, they're from a different country. So wanted to show you a picture. Another picture. There's, well, it's coming up. Here it is. Here's a picture of the traditional dress of a Hmong woman in Laos. So that's her traditional clothing. Isn't it beautiful? All those beads. So, and the other story that we're going to read is called Ish. So, I'm going to do that story as well. If you can see if you can tell me what's similar to this story, the two stories, and what's different.
Ramon loved to draw. Anytime, anything, anywhere.
Even on the toilet.
One day, Ramon was drawing a vase of flowers. His brother, Leon, leaned over his shoulder. Leon burst out laughing. "What is that?" he asked. Ramon could not even answer. He just crumpled up the drawing and threw it across the room.
How do you think it made him feel? How do you think that?
Leon's laughter haunted Ramon. He kept trying to make his drawings look right, but they never did. After many months and many crumpled sheets of paper, Ramon put his pencil down. "I'm done."
So how do you think he's feeling now? Keeps trying to make it right, and they never look right, and he just says he's done. How do you think he's feeling?
Marisol, his sister, was watching him. "What do you want?" he snapped. "I was watching you draw," she said. Ramon sneered. "I'm not drawing. Go away."
Do you think he's angry? Sounds angry. Is there something else you could be feeling?
Marisol ran away, but not before picking up a crumpled sheet of paper. Hey, come back here with that. Ramon raced after Marisol up the hall and into her room. He was about to yell, but fell silent when he saw his sister's walls. He stared at the crumpled gallery.
What made him stop yelling?
This is one of my favorites, Marisol said, pointing. That was supposed to be a vase of flowers, Ramon said, but it doesn't look like one. Well, it looks vase-ish, she exclaimed. Vase-ish? Ramon looked closer. Then he studied all the drawings on Marisol's walls and began to see them in a whole new way. They do look ish, he said. Ramon felt light and energized. Thinking ishly allowed his ideas to flow freely. He began to draw what he felt, loose lines, quickly springing out, without worry. Ramon once again drew and drew the world around him. Making an ish drawing felt wonderful. He filled his journals.
Boatish, afternoonish, fishish, sunnish, peace.
Ramon realized he could draw ish feelings too.
Excited-ish.
His ish art inspired ish writing. He wasn't sure if he was writing poems, but he knew they were poem-ish. One spring morning, Ramon had a wonderful feeling. It was a feeling that even ish words and ish drawings could not capture. He decided not to capture it. Instead, he simply savored it. And Ramon lived ishfully ever after.
So, what happened in that story? He started out with a drawing, and he was drawing and drawing and drawing, and he drew and drew and drew, but his brother, big brother, came up and did what? Laughed at him. Does it feel good to be laughed at? He said, "What's that?" And then what happened to Raymond? He kept drawing, but it never quite got right. He tried and tried and tried and never looked right. And he got really, was he happy about this? Kept trying and trying and couldn't do it. No, it didn't feel good. And then, so he said, "I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore." And he scrumpled up the paper. And then his sister comes in, and was he nice to her? Sometimes when people aren't feeling good, when they're upset for one reason or another, and Raymond was upset because he was frustrated. The word's frustrated, trying and trying and can't. You're not nice to people because you're not feeling good inside, so what comes out of you isn't good outside either. But so he says, "What do you want?" She grabbed his paper. He said, "Stop, stop." She ran away with the paper. She ran where? Into her room. And he started to yell at her, but then he stopped. And he looked, and the whole room was full of what? His pictures. So if somebody hung your pictures up in a whole room and all full of the room, the whole room was full of your pictures, how would that make you feel? Mike's not yelling anymore. In fact, you might even feel what? Happy. And he said, "Well, they're not, that was supposed to be a vase and it's not a vase." And she says, "Well, it's a vase." And what's the big word? Ish. It's a vase-ish. And then he decided, he felt energized, he felt happy, he felt excited, because he may not be able to do a vase perfect, but he could do a vase-ish. And all of his drawings were ishes, all different kinds, and that even his feelings could be those feelings-ish. And so he ended up happy. So what, in the two stories, what was the same? There's a point where somebody's not happy. In the first one, a map of the world. In fact, man's wife died. He wasn't happy. And this one, there's a point where Raymond wasn't happy because his brother had made fun of his drawings. But they both end up doing something. What did they do? What was the same? Drawing, chalk in the case of a map of the world. And she what did she draw? She drew something. She had arrows, she had lines, arrows, and a big line of the whole world. What was she drawing? A map of what? The world. In case he forgets how to get to the world. So that was his map. And at the end, he says he might need that map to the world. And what did he do? He hugged her. And at the end of Ish, he doesn't hug anybody, but he's all excited and energized and is enjoying and not worrying about making it right or having it look exactly right or perfect. He just enjoys it. So what's the thing that makes both cases makes somebody happy? And then I share that art. So I hope you enjoyed this story time today. And I hope you maybe use some of these ideas, and maybe you have chalk. The weather's getting a little bit warmer. Some days are warmer and some are colder. But maybe you could do your own map of the world, and maybe you could draw the favorite things. She drew a worm that she had named Annette, and she drew some flowers, and she drew lots of other things, teardrops that start out, and then a worm and leaves and all kinds of things, flowers and everything in the end. And then, or if you want to, you could draw something that's ish. It could be a flower-ish, it could be an apple-ish, it could be a mama-ish or a you-ish. So I hope you enjoyed this story and take advantage and use art, crayons, chalk. You can actually use a lot of different things. If you don't mind, you can even water on a piece of paper can make some interesting dots, and it dries, but it can make some interesting shapes. So whatever you choose to do, I hope you have a day that makes you feel energized and happy and excited and full of what? Hey, another word for that is joy. Make somebody happy. Maybe make a picture for them or for yourself. This is Bonnie Baldo from the Panic Public Library, hoping that you have a happy and healthy day today. Goodbye.